In this video we're going to be looking at past participle passives, or as they're more commonly known, PPPs. A past participle passive is formed from the supine, so the fourth principal part of a verb, and it becomes like an adjective. So it takes an us, ending like bonus, the adjective, and we would always literally translate it as having been loved, even though when we come to translate them in sentences we very rarely actually use those particular words. The way we spot a past participle passive in a sentence is that we can normally add ion to it to make an English word. Now this doesn't work terribly well with ammo, because you get amation, which isn't really an English word, but it works very well with these two verbs. So scribo, scribere, scripsi, scriptum forms a past participle passive of scriptus, which we would translate as having been written. If I add ion to that, take off the US, I get scription. Now, there's not many words with scription, but there's lots of words if you put a prefix onto it. So I get inscription, description, proscription, conscription and prescription. So if I add ion to it, I make an English word. Same thing works with duco. Duco, ducere, duxi, ductum. I can make a past participle passive from this of ductus, and that makes duction, which by itself isn't an English word, but if I add prefixes to it, well, straight away I get induction, production, reduction, conduction, and others. So adding ion to a past participle passive is a good way of spotting it in a sentence. Let's have a look at what that looks like in Latin then. So in this sentence, pater epistolam a filio scriptam legit, I have my main verb at the end of the sentence. I have pretty obvious subject at the beginning, and I've got an obvious object. I've also spotted scriptam. I know that scribo is a verb, so scriptam looks like it's a bit verby, but it hasn't got a normal verb ending and it's not in a normal verb place. So I think it's a participle. Add ion, scription, yes. As we saw before, it is a past participle passive. Now the next job is to make sure that I know what it's agreeing with. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a line all the way back from scriptam to the word epistolam, which it must agree with. You see it's got the same ending in this case. So, pater epistolam a filio scriptam legit, it tells me that pater is the subject, the father, legit is the verb, read, and then what he read was a letter having been written by his son. The father read the letter having been written by his son. And you'll notice that I've taken the whole object phrase together. So everything that I've underlined here, or joined together under the line, all works together. The letter having been written by his son. Now that's not terribly good English. And so there are a couple of ways that I can improve on that. I could say, oops, I beg your pardon. I could say, which had been written by his son. The father read the letter which had been written by his son. Or in this case, I could just say, the letter written by his son. And all of those are perfectly acceptable. Maybe the first one less so. Let's look at another example. Milites ab hostibus oppugnati ad oppidum fugerunt. So I have a subject, the soldiers. I've got a verb, they fled. I've got a preposition phrase, so I'll join that together. And then again in the middle of the sentence I have oppugnati. Now I know that oppugno is a verb, but oppugnati hasn't got a normal verb ending. It has got an I, you, he, we, they ending on it. and it's in the middle of a sentence where a verb shouldn't be. Oppugnation, well, it's not really an English word, but it sounds like it could be an English word. So that's good enough for me. I think it's a PPP. As I did before, I've got to think what it goes back to. Oppugnati, well, oppugnati is a nominative ending, so I think that's going to go all the way back to milites. And so when I translate the sentence, it's not just the milites, it's the milites ab hostibus oppugnati who fled to the town. Let's have a look then. The soldiers, having been attacked by the enemy, fled to the town. So, just as we had before, I have my subject and the participle all together with having been in the middle of it. It's not terribly good English, so let's see if we can improve it. How about the soldiers who had been attacked by the enemy? Straight away, that's better. The soldiers who had been attacked by the enemy fled to the town. And there are other ways I could do it. The soldiers after they had been attacked by the enemy. I could almost get away with the soldiers, comma, attacked by the enemy, comma, and that would work too. So, with past participle passives, I spot them by looking for verbs without verb endings, stuck in the middle of sentences in places where verbs shouldn't be. I see if I can add ion to it to make an English word. Once I've spotted a past participle, I need to make sure that I join it to the word with which it agrees. And then I translate that phrase all in one. So it's not just the soldiers who fled to the town, but it's the soldiers who had been attacked by the enemy who fled to the town.